Harvard University in the United States is suing the American government over a ban that it wants to impose on enrolling foreign students. It follows months of wrangling between the White House and the prestigious university. The latest row between the Trump administration and Harvard began back in January. Just 9 days after his inauguration, Donald Trump signed an executive order calling for the government to crack down on anti-Semitism. Then in March, 60 universities under investigation for anti-Semitism were sent letters by the Education Department. They were threatened with potential enforcement action if they failed to protect Jewish students. Harvard, incidentally, was number 13 on that list. The government then wrote to the university a month later, demanding a list of reforms and warning it to comply if it wanted to maintain its financial relationship with the government. The government then announced a freeze on $2.2 billion worth of funding to the university after its president, Alan Garber, rejected the president's demands. The university then sued the Trump administration, describing the move as unconstitutional and illegal. The Education Department then announced that Harvard would not receive any new research grants from the government until it met its demands. An additional $450 million worth of grants to Harvard was stopped on top of the freeze in funding. And then this week, a ban on Harvard's ability to enroll students from overseas was announced. For more, we can now speak to Dr. Thomas Gift, Director of the Centre of US Politics at University College London. Really good to see you this afternoon. We'll just step back for a moment. I mean, have you ever seen anything like this?
Thanks so much for having me, Sam. It's great to be with you. Really, I haven't. And I think that that's a common trend with the Trump administration, which is that every action seems to be more unprecedented than the last. But for a U.S. administration to go after, single out a university like Harvard, one of the best and most prestigious brands in American higher education, is really quite something. And there is really no parallel.
The ban on foreign students, I mean, there are thousands of students, and we understand about 7,000 of the student body there on some kind of visa, not just existing students, but also those with offers to attend Harvard. I mean, what happens? What happens now for them? Do you know?
Well, you're absolutely right that more than a quarter of the student body at Harvard are international students, so it comprises a very significant part of the enrollment. I actually teach a summer class every year at Harvard. I'm about to start doing that in July, despite being full-time at UCL. I would say about 4 out of every 5 students in that class, which is about globalization, are international students. So I think there's going to be a request for an injunction, and the administration is going to ask that the courts essentially block this movement. But in the long term, it's really hard to say whether this is going to pass constitutional muster. If it does, and the administration is successful at banning international students, that would just be a gut punch to so many who have worked so hard to attend Harvard, both the students who are currently there as well as those who are looking to matriculate just this fall. So it, again, very, very unprecedented. It's sad. It's sad for these students.
Very sad, life-changing. If this goes through, it doesn't blow over. The initial list that President Trump drew up, as I was saying, there was about 60 universities. Have all of the rest of them complied with his various demands, and it just leaves Harvard as almost the last man standing here, standing up to the president?
There's some variation across universities. I think that Trump is singling out Harvard precisely because it is so high profile and so prominent. And so it wants to make Harvard an example. If he were to go after sort of lesser known schools, it would have less of an impact. And make no mistake about it, this is highly political. Donald Trump thinks that, attacking Harvard plays well both with the MAGA base and maybe even to an extent with the public writ large. He's kind of cast the Harvard as this once great institution that's been turned into a hotbed of anti-American, anti-Semitism, pro-terrorist agitators. I don't think any of that is true. I mean, there's certainly problems that Harvard has had with anti-Semitism, and in fact, they just released a report, which I think was good news. But Trump is hugely characterizing Harvard as something that it is not, and it's trying to take advantage of that politically.
At the heart of a lot of this, though, isn't there this tension over freedom of speech?
Absolutely. Harvard is a private university, of course, so it operates quite a bit differently than public universities by and large in the UK. It's about freedom of speech, it's about academic sort of integrity, and it's the ability of a private institution to host the kind of students that it wants and to do the kinds of things in the classroom that it wants. And so this is really, I think, core. It's foundational to what makes a university a university, and that's why this has become such a big story.
What do you think is going to happen? Do you think those 7,000 students are going to have to find themselves somewhere else to
I
go?
certainly hope that that's not the case. For all these students who have worked so hard to get into an institution like Harvard, it would be very sad if that were to happen. My guess is that probably other comparable institutions in the Ivy League, as well as outside of it, will try to make accommodations for these students and maybe allow them to be part of their incoming classes. But for many of these students, they'll probably never get to the United States. I mean, there's so much controversy right now about visas, getting international student visas. It's become almost impossible. And so it's hard to know what is next. But I do think that this conflict between the Trump administration and Harvard is certainly not over, again, because I think the Trump administration views this as a political winner, unfortunately.